you guys? I'm setting up in my kitchen tonight. I thought I would just hang down here. It's been a really icky day here. I'm gonna give you guys a minute to hop on and see who can join us tonight. I don't plan to keep you for too long. I thought maybe just a few minutes to give you a little bit of background. I wanted to touch on insulin and how insulin kind of affects our overall health and kind of the things that we're working towards right now in this group when it comes to losing weight and getting healthier. And insulin plays a huge role in that. So I'll give you guys like a minute to hop on. We're just hanging out. I'm hanging out with Harv. He's had the sleepiest day. I don't know if you can see him. Let's see. There he is. It's been rainy all day here today, so we have been straight chilling. All right. A couple of you are hopping on. Hey, guys. All right. So I'm going to do at least a couple of these this week because I think sometimes I'll attach articles also in the comments of this after we finish talking so you guys can read a little bit more if you want to. But I think it's really important to understand the whys behind why our meal plans are set up the way that they are. I know for me, like if somebody tells me to do something, my like gut reaction is to be like, no, thanks a lot, but no. Unless of course you can give me an explanation. If you can explain to me why something is important, like I'll get on board. If I see the merit in it, like I can get on board with that. So I don't ever want you guys to feel like you are just like blindly following a plan or blindly following what I am like instructing you to do or anything like that. Like I want you guys to be understanding where I'm coming from when I suggest things to you. And as you continue to learn about your health, I just think it's important to ask questions and kind of, dig around. There's a lot of research that has come out in a lot of these different areas in the past few years that have kind of debunked a lot of the things that we thought were healthy. And, the government is very behind on changing recommendations because it's a lot of work for them. So just because the food pyramid says something from, myfoodpyramid.gov or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that that is what we want to base our lives around. And so anyway, that's kind of where I'm coming from with today's message. So I wanted to talk about insulin. And basically, so insulin is a hormone. It is like one of the first hormones that they can like trace back in animals. Like all animals produce insulin. It's not just a human thing. It's a reaction to taking energy that the body has consumed and then using it as fuel for the muscles to continue living and finding other food and kind of refueling that way. So it is like the transport vehicle that when you consume food, insulin is released to help. It's like the boat. It is like the boat that carries all the little energy people to where they need to go. So it's very important and it's good. It's not bad. Sometimes it gets a bad rap or people try to be like, have super low insulin. Like we need insulin. We need our blood sugar to spike and to dip so that we are, burning fat and using fuel in our muscles. We need it to live. So carbs, for the most part, carbohydrates control insulin release. And there are some other little pieces to this, and like your body can turn pretty much anything into glycogen. It can turn anything into glucose, including protein. But the easiest way that this happens is when you ingest a carbohydrate. Here, let me back up. So carbs control insulin, and then insulin controls your fat storage. Okay, so that's the biggest point here, is that carbs control insulin, and insulin controls body fat. And I took some notes because I want to make sure to tell you guys like all of the things. Well, I can't tell you all of the things, but many of the things. Okay, so there are some foods that we eat that are used for muscle building, right? So like protein and amino acids and even fat are used to structurally build our bodies. We need those things to build our body composition. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, are strictly used for fuel. There's no, like, you don't have like a carb step, like nothing builds from carbohydrates. They're only used as energy or stored as fat. So all carbohydrates that enter your mouth, your body breaks down into glucose. It doesn't matter if it's a good carb or a not so good carb. All carbs turn into simple sugar in your body. So we can get all hung up on whole grain or whole wheat or white bread or sourdough or, it's a corn chip instead of a flour chip, or it's, it's an iced tea, it's a sweetened iced tea with cane sugar instead of a soda with artificial sugar. It doesn't matter. Your body breaks them all down the same way. I made a little graph. Okay. So we have all these things up here. It's not a graph, it's just a picture. All these things up here. So bread, rice, quinoa, like even the good carbs all get turned into glucose, all right? So every single one of them gets turned into glucose, and what insulin's job is to do is to react to that glucose and get it out of your bloodstream. So that's why, like diabetics, it's so important for them to monitor their blood sugar levels, because they need to make sure that that sugar is getting out of their bloodstream effectively. So where does it go? Insulin takes your glucose, your blood glucose, and it either puts it in your muscles and stores it as muscle glycogen. And muscle glycogen is what they talk about when you're going to like fuel up before a workout, or when you're going to when you're doing like a long endurance race and you're having like those Cliff gels, like that sugar is going straight to your muscles to be used as fuel. You only can store, any human, doesn't really matter, doesn't really fluctuate that much, can store a maximum of 2,000 calories worth of glycogen in their muscles at any given time. And then you're capped out, that's the lid. You cannot get any more. So where does that go after that? Because it's really easy to eat 2,000 calories worth of carbs, right? Like that's not that many. And unless you are habitually doing endurance exercise, there's no way that most of us are going to use up all of that glycogen that's being stored. Because what happens is so your muscles are used, it opens the gate, lets the glycogen out, so then you're depleted, and then you can absorb some more carbs and not have them be stored as fat. They will go back to your muscles. But if that cap is on and you're not depleting those glycogen stores in your muscles, you're not using up all that energy, the insulin diverts it to your fat cells and immediately turns it to fat. So the fat that you're eating is not being stored as fat. The sugar that you're eating is being stored as fat. The sugar that you're eating is being turned to glucose in your blood and then funneled into your fat to be stored for later use. So we can either send it to the muscles or to the belly. That was my very rough drawing of a chubby belly. And here, there's no limit. There's no limit on how much glucose can be stored in your fat cells. And then what happens is over time, my computer went dark and it made my face get really dark. What happens is over time, so your liver also absorbs some fat, but it's all the same. So your muscles and your liver, because as a society we are overloading those stores, that cap is on, and we're pounding on the door with more glucose that cannot be absorbed, your muscles and your liver get used to saying no. They get used to shooting that away, and eventually you develop what's called insulin resistance, which happens when we've had too many carbs for too many years over and over and over again without using it up. And so then it becomes easier, then your body's natural reaction, even if you have used a little bit of that and the gate is kind of open to absorb some of that glucose, it won't. it will automatically divert it to your fat because that's what it's used to doing, right? We're literally creatures of habit. So if your body is used to being rejected by your muscles to move that glucose, it will just put it in as fat, right? It'll just automatically do that. So let's see. Let's come back from my graph back over to my notes. So then what happens is when you develop that insulin resistance, it takes longer for your fat cells to absorb it. And so that's when people have like all this extra blood sugar in their blood. And this is where we develop diabetes, right? So this is where when you have too much insulin and trying to work too hard, there's more sugar in your blood because we're having too many carbs, which makes your pancreas release more insulin to try and deal with the carbs, but you can't put them in the muscles to use them. So it's all being stored as fat and it can't be absorbed. And that's when people become diabetic. Okay, so they're coming out and they're saying things like diabetes is... We all know that type 2 diabetes, so this isn't true for type 1 diabetics. That's like a whole different ballgame, as we all know. But they're coming out and saying that the causes of diabetes are mostly genetic, and can be controlled by diet and exercise and lifestyle habits, but that they're mostly genetic. It says my connection is weak. I hope it's not too weak. So the point, sort of, is that we are all genetically predisposed to be diabetic. Based on what I just shared, I'm going to move this over here. There we go. Now it's not so weak. Based on everything I just told you about our hormone response, our physical hormone response to carbohydrate ingestion, we are all predisposed, if we're eating too many carbs that our body cannot process, to becoming diabetic. So it's kind of like a moot point there, right? So if we're already in a position where we have extra body fat, which, let's be honest, most of us do, that's fine, we can change it. The good thing is that you can control your body's insulin resistance, and you can control how your body chooses to use the fuel. So just because you've stored all this glycogen or all this glucose as fat instead of glycogen, you can shift it. And that's what we're trying to do here. So what happens is two things. There's two main ways that you can get your body to change back from being insulin resistant and pushing all of your glucose into your fat cells. You can instead exercise. So exercise is the best way for you to deplete those glycogen stores in your muscles. And then when your body needs to reach for fuel, it will reach to the glucose that's stored as fat in the rest of your body. So, but not if you refuel with carbs. So there's a lot of stuff out there that says, quit carbs after your workout, blah, 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 that's the best fuel, blah. That is the time when your body is most primed to accept carbohydrates as muscle glycogen. So if you eat carbs after a workout, yes, they will be stored in your muscles instead of in your fat. But if you choose to merely not refuel with carbs and instead refuel with Shakeology, refuel with scrambled eggs, refuel with Greek yogurt and nuts and berries, and you choose foods that are not high in carbohydrates to refuel, your body will go reach for those fat cells to refuel your muscle glycogen. So what you do is you exercise and you let your body move to the fat for fuel, right? So does that make sense? Tell me if I'm not making any sense, because I could not be making sense. Hard to say. But okay, so that's the first way. So exercising, depleting the energy stores, that are in your muscles is the first way to control your insulin resistance. The second way is merely cutting back on carbs. And so circling back, and I haven't even gotten to the part about the heart, which we're going to dig more into later, but so circling back to our meal planning and how these meal plans that we're following are designed to help us sort of combat the insulin resistance that is so prevalent in our country right now and just in society. By cutting back on carbs and allowing your body, like not starving yourself out from them, and none of us are doing that, right? So by keeping your carbohydrate intake down around like 100 grams a day, maybe 150, which is, if you're following the meal plan as it's laid out, it pretty gently pulls you there. It really, it guides you to be in a low carb, lower grain state, which allows your body then all the time to be picking the fat for fuel instead of adding to the carbohydrate conundrum that tends to go on. So the food pyramid is out, people. Which I think we all kind of know. I mean, I think it suggests something ridiculous, like 60% of your daily calories come from grains. That's so silly. That makes you wonder which corn company and which wheat company is paying the Food and Drug Administration to put out the guidelines so we all up our bread intake. But so the main point of this is that we're designed as humans to not be carb dependent, right? I mean, grains are something that are very, very recent to human history, and we didn't evolve eating grains. We evolved eating some starchy vegetables, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, meat, but we didn't, there was no Panera back in the day for these cavemen to eat. And I think that's important to remember, that we are all predisposed as humans to be insulin resistant, and it's really dangerous. Why is it really dangerous? It is really dangerous because the number one cause of heart disease is, I'm going to botch the word because I don't know how to say it. It's, I don't even know, atherosclerosis, I think is maybe how you say it, atherosclerosis. But basically, like when plaque builds up in your arteries, when they say like your arteries have narrowed, it's not what they've found in recent years. And tomorrow's video is going to be about cholesterol and food and cholesterol and the body's cholesterol and how that affects heart disease and healthy hearts, and good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. So, but here's the thing. Too much insulin in the blood is what causes atherosclerosis. So the excess insulin, basically what it does is it reduces the flexibility of our arteries. So when you have too much insulin and you're having this inflamed reaction constantly, when you're living in an inflamed state, it hardens the passageways. And then when the passageways are hard, things don't move through as easily, right? So let's see. I think maybe that was all for right now. I know that was longer than I meant for it to be, and I'm really sorry. Trying to see if there's anything else that I have pulled up here that I wanted to touch on. I don't know if anyone is watching and has questions, feel free to comment below, and comment below, like, as you watch this later, I will pop back in and answer anything that you guys have, that you're wondering about. So, I had something pulled up here. Oh, Harvey is going to town on his paw over there, and it sounds disgusting. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, I think, because I have like 12,000 tabs pulled up that I'm sure you do not really want me to go into detail about all of them. But anyway, major points being any and every carb that you put in your mouth gets turned into glucose, simple sugar in your blood. It can be used as muscle fuel, but only to a certain point, and when that is capped off, everything else is going to fat. And while that extra insulin is roaming around in your bloodstream, it is hardening your arteries, and it is causing stress and tension in all of the passageways of your heart. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys are having a great Monday. I know a lot of us had like a weird day and weird things happen, but I hope that you get to chill tonight, start fresh tomorrow, and I will be talking to you soon. Talk to you later.